So we are going to hear from our second speaker now, George London, who is
Give me credit.
Upwave. For fun facts about George, like Michael, he's also comes from a background that's a little bit different from media and research. His first job was at a hedge fund at Bridgewater Associates, where he did macroeconomic modeling and investment research. And also, he also has a degree in philosophy. And like Michael, he lives in Oakland. So, welcome, George.
Hi, everybody, and good morning. I am CTO Upwave. Upwave is the brand outcomes measurement company.
Is that on? Make sure it's on.
There we go. Better?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Upwave is the brand outcome measurement company, meaning that we measure and optimize brand lift, meaning that we help advertisers understand and improve how well their ad campaigns are changing how people think and feel about brands. Like many technology companies, we've been investing heavily in AI recently, and we're just weeks away now from releasing the first interactive version of our AI analyst, which we call Bays. But we are data nerds at Upwave, so we didn't just vibe design Bays. Instead, we did actual rigorous user research to understand what practitioners in our domain want from AI and what they don't want. That led to some fascinating findings I'd like to share with you today. But first, let me open with a provocative question. This is the title of this talk. Will AI replace the analyst? Now, 4 years ago, that sounded preposterous. But today, it's a fair question, especially as doomer AI think pieces circulate on LinkedIn, claiming that AI is very close to replacing any work that a human can do from in front of a computer. Now, that's probably a bit overstated, but progress in AI capabilities has been impressive. The first version of ChatGPT could barely do basic arithmetic, but modern LLMs can accurately and quickly read data, write and run analytical code better than most humans, generate visualizations, write complete coherent narratives, and answer nuanced questions about campaign performance in real time. So, do we still need the humans? Well, we ran an experiment to find out. And here's what we found. But first, a little background. Since early 2024, Upwave has been shipping LLM-generated campaign insights reports, which are AI-generated wrap report slide decks that summarize the key takeaways from the campaigns that we measure. Now, our customers find these very useful. They generally love them. They use them all the time. But static slide decks are one direction. You can't ask follow-up questions. You can't ask for tweaks. You can't ask to recut the data by age or gender. So we started building something more ambitious, which is a fully interactive and conversational version of Bays that users will be able to have complete end-to-end conversations with. They'll be able to ask follow-up questions. They'll be able to make requests. And they'll be able to input back on Bays' conclusions. But there's a lot of design decisions that go into making something like this. And Upwave, the company, was founded in the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator, and we still live by their core principle that you, to succeed as a startup, need to build something people want. So to understand what people want, we did user research. We needed to understand what our customers really want. What kind of questions did they ask? What day-to-day problems could AI help them solve? What would they trust AI for? And crucially, when would they still want to talk to a human? To answer these questions, we assembled 3 key data sets. First of all, for years, Upwave has defaulted to including an AI note-taker called Chorus in all of our customer conversations. By going through our Chorus archives, we were able to extract a sample of 50 real human to analyst sessions between real customers and our analytics staff at Upwave. This produced a data set of 354 real questions that were really asked by real humans to our analytics team. That gave us a useful baseline of what kind of questions the humans actually ask and how often. Second, we conducted about a dozen in-depth user discovery interviews with real hands-on keyboard users. We asked them directly, what would you want to use AI for, and when would you still prefer to talk to a human, and why? We showed them prototypes, and we annotated their reactions. Now, I would have loved to have done hundreds of those interviews, but that type of qualitative research is very time-intensive, both for us and for our customers. So to scale our research, we turned to AI. And we used AI to role-play back and forth, complete end-to-end conversations between an LLM and our chatbot Bays. To facilitate this, we created 8 distinct user personas based on a clustering of real customer types that we've seen. We also enumerated a set of jobs to be done, which are specific goals that people tend to bring when they're interacting with brand lift data. We would then see the AI with a persona and a goal and tell it, for example, act as a junior analyst at an agency who's trying to understand if your campaign is behaving differently among different demographics. Now, crucially, we did not tell the AI what questions to ask. Instead, it decided on its own what to ask based on the persona, the goals, and the responses that it was getting from base. Using this method, we were able to generate over 1,000 complete synthetic conversations. Then we took the transcripts from all of these conversations, both the chorus calls and the synthetic role plays, and we coded them against a single unified question taxonomy. That let us do some statistics. By looking at all these questions, we're able to cluster them into 7 distinct types of questions that humans tend to ask to analysts, and we were able to count how often these types of questions are routed to humans versus AI. And here's the result in one chart. So going from left to right, on the left side, you have what we call the AI strong categories, in particular, data lookup and package and present. Data lookup is simple questions like, what was the lift in aided awareness? These are questions that have definitive answers, and so the AI will answer them correctly and instantly. Then you've got package and present, which is things like, make me a summary slide, or give me talking points for my meeting tomorrow. The AI also is very good at these. And these 2 categories together represent almost 50% of all the questions that were asked to AI. And the AI did a good job of them, compared to just 18% of the questions that were posed directly to humans. In the middle, you've got explain and define, which is questions like, what does aided awareness even mean? Or how is the control group on this study constructed? These are foundational and important questions, but they're also questions that humans are sometimes self-conscious about asking to human experts, because many times they think that they should already know those answers. That's an interesting finding, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Then in the middle, you've got diagnosing patterns. This, for example, would be a case where suppose Bayes identifies that performance on the campaign has been trending downward month over month. That's an interesting finding, but what does it mean? This is where you may need a human who has external context about the campaign to come in and note, for example, that the creatives were rotating mid-campaign, which could explain the decline in performance. That kind of useful synthesis requires you to both identify the pattern, but then also have someone who has the judgment and the context to interrogate the underlying data generating process, which in this case is the real campaign itself. Next, you've got recommend actions. This is questions like, is it time to finally cut our lowest performing audiences? Here, AI can generate great options, but you often still need a human with external context to understand which of those options are actually realistically attractive and practical. Then over on the right side, in human strong, you've got campaign operations. At least for the moment, Bayes is embedded inside of our results dashboard, and it doesn't have access to operational details about the campaigns we're measuring. So it's pretty self-evident to users that if you want to ask a question like, are my pixels actually firing, you're going to need to talk to a human. Finally, there's relationship management. This is the classic trust-building questions. You have a sharing organizational context, sales strategy advice, the inside jokes. Somewhat predictably, not a lot of people ask Bayes casually about the weather in Chicago. So here's an interesting finding as well. We counted the number of follow-up questions that people asked to humans versus to the AI. And we found that in the AI sessions, roughly 50% more follow-up questions were asked. This suggests that by lowering the friction to asking follow-up questions, we may actually influence how deeply people interrogate their data. Now, in addition, you may be thinking, cool chart, George, but is any of this actually real, or is this just random noise? Well, again, we're data nerds, so we ran a stat test. We did a chi-square test of homogeneity between the distributions and got a p-value of 10 to the negative 94th, which is very small, meaning that whatever is going on here, this is not random noise. At least within the setup of this experiment, it really is the case that different types of questions are getting routed to different channels. Then here's an interesting qualitative finding that I mentioned earlier that I'm coming back to, which is that AI creates meaningful psychological safety. Here's a couple of verbatims that I'm going to read because I think the words are excellent. A media analyst at a major CPG brand told us, I think I'd be more willing to explore knowing that it's just between me and the chatbot versus me and someone who's like a pro at Upwave. It'd be easier to be like, all right, here's a beginner level question. That same media analyst said that she would be willing to ask the chatbot dumb questions because nobody else could see them. A practitioner in an agency said, sometimes when I'm putting something in the chatbot, I'm just like, is this a stupid question? Does everyone already know this? The sentiment was echoed across multiple interviews. A practitioner at a major broadcaster told us the AI would be great for answering quick questions, but not just because of the speed, also because of the social dynamics of asking. Privacy of AI creates psychological safety, and that eliminates the social cost of curiosity. That means that AI doesn't just answer questions faster, it actually means that entirely new questions could be asked that otherwise never would have been asked to a human. That, to me, is strong evidence for smarter together. Humans and AI are both bringing meaningful capabilities to the table and getting better outcomes. So, there's some more reasons why we think that human analysts aren't going anywhere anytime soon. First of all, as I already mentioned, is context. Bayes only knows what we tell it, and oftentimes that's just not enough. The world is complicated, and humans bring all kinds of details that Bayes really can take advantage of only when they're actually provided by a human practitioner. Second is accountability. There's a principle from the early days of computing that a computer can never be held accountable, therefore a computer should never make a decision. Now, in 2026, computers and AI are already used extensively for decision support everywhere, but the principle still holds. AI can never be accountable. When somebody wants someone to actually own a recommendation, to say, even though the stakes are high, you can trust this recommendation because you can trust me, they still want a human on the line. They want someone with skin in the game who has a professional reputation to lose. Third is relationships. People like talking to their analysts. They make friends. They like talking to someone who remembers the name of their dog, who understands their complicated organizational politics, and who can give it to them straight, but not too straight. When we did the user interviews, people's stated preferences matched the behavioral data. They told us that they would use the chatbot for quick questions and to quote dumb questions, but they would still reach out to a human analyst when they wanted someone to help them when things got tough. So far, this has been pretty reassuring, I think. But this is a snapshot of AI capabilities in 2026, and AI capabilities are a fast-moving target. So to talk a little bit more about where things are going to go, I'm going to turn things over to a colleague. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Bayes.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. The findings we've shown you today are a snapshot taken in early 2026, not a permanent boundary. Take campaign operations. Right now, nobody asks me operations questions because I don't have access to operational context, but that will change. The biggest theme in AI this past year has been agentic AI, AI that can make and carry out plans impacting real-world systems. It's only a matter of time before I can diagnose and fix operational issues like malfunctioning pixels, and that's just operations. Upwave is already building toward an AI that proactively monitors your campaigns and surfaces anomalies before you think to ask, that notices a creative is underperforming within a specific demographic and flags it without being prompted. Further out, an AI that can join your client calls, present findings live, and answer stakeholder questions in real time. In general, it's dangerous to assume today's AI limitations will persist. Those gaps become obvious bottlenecks, so developers focus on solving them. Early models hallucinated constantly, so labs built grounding techniques that mostly fixed the problem. Early AI images had way too many fingers, but look at me now. Important AI limitations get fixed. Now, we don't think customers want professional relationships with AI anytime soon. And enterprise customers making multi-million-dollar media decisions may never put full faith in AI without some layer of human accountability behind it. But the together zone is going to shift over time. Categories we're calling human-leaning today may become together territory within a year, and together may eventually become AI-strong. The share of questions where AI is the best first answer will grow, probably faster than most people in this room expect, but I don't know. And anyone who claims to know exactly where AI will be in 3 years is guessing or trying to sell you something.
Thank you, Bayes. So, back to the original question. Will AI eliminate the analyst? No, but it will meaningfully change what analytics professionals do. Today, analysts spend most of their time on things like basic data analysis or answering the same methodology question for the 15th time. In the future, as AI takes over more of the routine, analysts will be freed up to do more of what CMOs really care about, which is connecting the performance of many different campaigns to holistic corporate marketing strategy. CMOs want to know not about the results of individual campaigns, or definitely not about individual p-values. Instead, they want to know how things ladder up to producing real economic value for their companies. They want to know about brand positioning, cultural relevance, portfolio level strategy, the strategic levers that actually move the needle. So AI is not going to eliminate the analyst, but it is going to elevate the analyst. The best outcomes in the future are going to come not from humans or from AI alone, but from each party bringing their own distinctive strengths to work together to solve the most meaningful marketing problems. To me, at least, that sounds smarter together. Thank you.
Okay, anybody have questions for George? Or did you anticipate already? Okay, yeah, okay, Carl, yeah.
Me.
Yeah, first Carl and then, oh,
On the surface, psychological safety seems like a wonderful thing, but in the hands of a typical brander, it may not be. So suppose someone says, does sale correspond to, does advertising correspond to sales? Strong, emphatic, yes. Very different question than does advertising cause sales, right? If you're talking to real analysts, they're going to anticipate these things and make corrections, right? Under psychological safety, there's a lot of opportunity for people to make the wrong inferences in driving their strategy. So how do you put guardrails on this?
That is something that we're spending a lot of time on in product design. There's definitely sort of a slider that you have to tune how much the AI pushes back on people. And I think the ideal AI is sort of using a largely Socratic method to help guide people to the right answer, but doing it in a way that they don't find aggressively challenging or undermining or demeaning or that kind of thing. People do bring a lot of misconceptions into advertising and advertising research, but a nice thing about AI is also that it's infinitely patient. It can answer very similar questions over and over. It never gets frustrated. It never gets annoyed or bored, which means that a lot of times those misperceptions are not actually that ideological. They're just sort of layers of misunderstanding that's accumulated over time. And if the AI can unwind those layers bit by bit, patiently and slowly, actually a lot of times it can lead people to the correct conclusion at the end of the day.
So stepping up a level, I think what Wall Street's really grappling with is, will generative AI be a human productivity enhancer like mobile turned out to be, or will these agents replace labor? And in the hyperscalers where we are seeing that, really in Google and Meta and OpenAI, they are laying off tens of thousands of people every quarter. Their costs are going down as they use more Gen AI and their revenues accelerating. So my question to you is sort of cutting edge in this business, is it your contention from this work that over a 10-year frame, actually AI will stay a human productivity enhancer and not replace human labor?
On the first point about layoffs, my somewhat cynical take is that 95% of the time when someone says they did layoffs because of AI, it means they did layoffs because their company is struggling and they can use AI as an excuse. So you definitely have to not take those claims at face value about AI replacing labor in the short term. In the longer term, I mean, it is a tough question. I think this framing, it probably will last for at least several years, but 10 years is a long time in AI progress. I think humans will still be using AI as a tool in 10 years, but the things they're using it for may be meaningfully different. You're going to have sort of much heavier capabilities available to every individual, then it's going to be up to each individual what they do with those capabilities. But there's still all kinds of challenges in the world today. There's still a lot of valuable things that can be done to make everybody's lives better, to make people richer and more successful. And as people get more and more leverage, I think there's, even in 10 years, still going to be work for people to do directing these tools to achieve the aims that matter to them. Because at the end of the day, as people, we know what matters to us. The AI can guess, but it never really knows. And so a lot of the great things about things like Claude Code and these agentic tools is that if you tell them what you want, they will help you accomplish it. They can't tell you what they want, what you want, but they can really accelerate you getting to your goals. And so as long as there still are humans with goals in 10 years, I think there will still be humans using AI to accomplish those goals.
do one more? Yeah, I'm sorry. George, thank you.
This is fascinating. I have this question. So the better the prompt, the better the answer. How are you thinking about restructuring the role of the AI to be a coach that is actually helping the user to ask better questions, essentially to create a better prompt, essentially almost like a turbocharger, reusing past questions and finding what's produced an effective answer and therefore improving the product that way?
So this is actually an interesting thing that I think has changed a bit, even in just the last year or two of AI. With the initial versions of ChatGPT, the prompt mattered a lot because the AI would be very literal and would misunderstand you pretty frequently. The AIs have actually gotten a lot better at reading between the lines, even in the last year, and sort of understanding the intent underlying a prompt. And oftentimes, even without prompting, no pun intended, they will guide you towards what your underlying question actually was. They can actually ask follow-up questions now. They can incorporate those things. So, if you have a coherent question that you're asking, but you misphrase it, the AI will often do the work for you to get to the question. Now, to the earlier question, if you don't have a coherent question, or your question essentially doesn't make sense, then it's a bit of a harder challenge. Even in that case, the AI often can use that as sort of a teaching moment if you prompt it appropriately and tell it it's okay to help educate the users. And I think Bayes is definitely going to have the job of trying to make BrandLift more transparent, understandable, easy to use and easy to understand for our customers. But beyond that, we're going to be doing analytics on the conversational transcripts themselves as we get more and more people using this thing. And we're definitely going to be looking for cases where people have frustrating outcomes and creating a feedback loop around that. But we can then turn those conversations into automated evaluations that we can run in the future. So we fix the prompt to fix the system prompt to make that conversation more successful, then encode that as a test that gets run against future versions. Then as we build out that evaluation suite, then the AI just gets sort of monotonically better over time as we continue to tweak and tune it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, George.